Hello, welcome back. This is Erin, and I am your emotional processing and intimate communications coach. So this is the last part of my series for now. As far as the coaching part, I'm going to do some asana and pranayama parts of the series that I'm going to record and also release. But this is the last bit that I'm going to be speaking about some of these issues with emotional regulation, dysregulation, as well as intimate communications. So in this series, I've talked about emotional regulation, dysregulation, the signs, what to do. If you feel emotionally dysregulated, you can do things from, rubbing your body, clapping your hands, stomping your feet, grabbing yourself to kind of like wake up. If you notice that your body's feeling numb, if you feel disconnected, if your memory isn't working as it usually should, if you feel overwhelmed, if you're tripping over yourself, forgetting things, forgetting to eat, things like this, chances are you're probably emotionally dysregulated. Or if you feel like you can't handle simple conversations, or you start just like crying at the drop of a hat, you're probably emotionally dysregulated. It might take a little bit to get you in the space. I talked about needs, how to acknowledge them within yourself. Emotional needs are really important to become aware of, because if we pretend that we don't have them, we stuff them down, then what happens is we start to have things like depression, anxiety attacks, sometimes destructive behavior, because like literally there's a part of our soul that's like, no, I need to get this need met and I'm going to do what I need to do. And so you can't, for the long term, pretend that you don't have these things, because otherwise it's going to come out in passive aggressive behavior, very aggressive behavior. So talked about that. And then my last podcast, I talked about how to express those needs. So acknowledging them, knowing what need you have, and then being able to vocalize it, and then also being able to put it in the form of a request. So that's really important because in a relationship, you need to be able to express these things. Otherwise, if people are guessing, a lot of times they're not going to be able to guess, because everyone's life is busy. And even if you have a wonderful partner that can guess your needs, I will tell you this, that if they're so tuned in to guessing your needs all the time, probably they're spending less time meeting their own needs. And one of the best things that we can do for others is to take care of ourselves. And one of the best things that other people can do for us is to take care of themselves. And so I think that we have a duty and responsibility to know what we need. Of course, we have the inside scoop. Nobody else is living inside of your body except for you. So you have the greatest chance to be able to become aware of these things, determine these things, and then vocalize them. So that is your work as your coach, elected coach. Doing that work is really important for you. So on today's podcast, I wanted to talk about wants versus needs. So many times there's things that we want in a relationship, and getting an idea as far as why we want those things, and recognizing if it's fair for us to want those things, and then recognizing the difference between wants and needs. So we typically have this thing, everybody has it. When we enter a relationship, we enter a new space. And if we think of our interactions with the world as a big relationship, that makes this concept a little bit easier to grasp. But we have manuals for the way that people are going to conduct themselves and the way that things are going to be. So for example, when I went to India, opening times for stores are a suggestion, I've learned. I showed up at a store at 9:45, it opened up at 9:30, gave 15-minute buffer, showed up at the door, and most of the businesses, all the doors were not open yet. There's some lady who was sweeping the steps and came up, and I'm like, oh, I'm in a rush. I have to get these printed. I have a training. And I went to the lady, and she's just kind of looking at me like, what are you doing here? And so I use Google Translate. I'm like, hey, I'm in a rush. The store says it's open 9:30. Where is the owner? Can I speak to them? Da, 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 da. And so, I pressed the Google speak, and it was speaking in Kannada. And the lady, she shook her head and she said, 11:30. And I was like, what? You gotta be kidding me. I had to have those prints done by 1 at the latest, and I had to have time to get back to the shala. So I had a certain expectation in a manual that If there is a time that is printed somewhere about your business that says it opens this time, that's when it opens. And the problem with that, I don't think that's unreasonable, but the problem is that it was a different culture, it's sort of different standards. And what happened afterwards is I got this sense of justice. I started getting angry, and angry a little bit at this woman, which she's just sweeping the steps. She's just wanted me to kind of leave her alone, mind my own business. But that sense of justice really started I started feeling tense and angry in my body. And I didn't take it out on her, which is good because I have my tools, I breathe through it, but I had to take space. So I have talked about the window of tolerance in my series of podcasts as well, as far as noticing when you're at a 1 or a 6. I was at about a 3. 3 is when your body is clenching, you're tight, you're tense. You got to take a walk. Get out of there, homie, because otherwise you're going to say things that you regret. So I took a walk. And when I started breathing and I started releasing that manual that I had for that business, it led me on this beautiful side quest and adventure. And so with wants in a relationship, what we can do is express, ask, and try to get as much clarity as we can. The thing is your wants are not always going to be met, nor your needs necessarily. And I think that that's an important thing to talk about, because just because you have needs does not mean that they're always going to be met by another person. If you think about it, you might have needs that you cannot always meet yourself. For example, I need to rest. And let's say I'm working a 9 to 5 and I'm at 11. Okay, maybe I can take a micro rest. Maybe I can, I need a bathroom break. Give me 10 minutes. And I can take some deep breaths and I can kind of somehow put my legs up in the bathroom stall. I have done this before when I worked very briefly when I was a teen at Kmart. And I remember doing that and just trying not to get my hair in the toilet bowl, elevating my legs. So there's ways that we might be able to adjust things to where we get micro needs met, but we might not be able to get the full need met. For example, I was talking with my partner. I want to spend more time with him. And he was telling me that during this brief stint, it was a couple of weeks, he said, listen, I really need to focus on my work stuff. There's a lot of projects coming up. And he said straight up, I might not be able to meet your needs for what you want for time. He said, I ask you to be patient with me and give me grace. And maybe there's smaller ways that I can help meet those needs and for me, actually, I was like, okay, well, I had to go out and call up my friends more. I had to go for more walks. I had to be social with people in ways that I wasn't typically, which was actually quite nice. It sort of rekindled. I have a tendency to get sucked into work. I get sucked in and I'm like, oh, wait, where's all my friends? And I can pull out, right? So I'm much more aware of that now. It happens less, but I had to meet my own needs in a big way. And so what I want to make clear in this series is that you can acknowledge your needs, you can see what they are, and you can try to meet them, ask other people to meet them, but you might not be able to meet them. But having an awareness and knowing that I need a break, I need a vacation, I need emotional intimacy, knowing it, and then seeing if you can meet it, maybe not in this big grandiose way, but maybe in smaller ways. What can you do for yourself? Can you have that 10 minutes in the bathroom? If you need a bit of social time, can you reach out to a friend and have a phone call that you haven't connected with in a while? Or maybe it's just messaging someone so they can get back to you when they need to. If you have a need to be creative, maybe you can do a little Canva illustration. So finding micro needs that can be met can help you to hang on if you have bigger needs that are not being met. So becoming aware of those and knowing that it's not this yes or no, it's not a black or white answer, that sometimes real life is captured in microseconds. I was listening to this comedian, Tom Segura. I think he's hilarious. I know he might not be everybody's cup of tea because he definitely says things that can be offensive, but whatever, that's comedy. So he was explaining, he's like, yeah, you know how before you have children, you can have all these big memories and you get a day off. He's like, He's like, now my my time to myself is in small moments. He said, like, I'll have a couple of breaths. I'll have a moment where the kids aren't crying and like they're on the swing set or something. And I have just like a few moments to feel my feet on the ground and like stand in the sun. And so those are examples of needs getting met in micro intervals. And that's what you have to do sometimes, right? So sometimes you don't have time for like, I need to sit down and just have like a meal to myself. Maybe you don't get that. Maybe you just get a couple of breaths and just shove some food in your mouth before your kid's crying. So I think being reasonable with needs is really important. What I used to do is I used to get resentful towards my partner because I expected him to meet certain needs. So let's just say like sexual needs, right? So, and all my ladies listening, or even my dudes, like relationships, if you've been in long-term relationships, it ebbs and flows. I don't know anyone that's like doing it like bunny rabbits all the time. Like we have other things to do, right? Like sex is a beautiful, wonderful expression, but like, it's not always like that. Like there's stress and there's different things that can affect us to where we might not feel that same compulsion for like romantic physical intimacy. And certainly it fluctuates from one partner to the other because of hormones and all these different things. So there's been times where, with sexual intimacy, I wasn't getting what I need. And, any adult woman knows that there's ways that you can handle that yourself. And so I'm not shy to talk about that, but that's an example of like in small intervals, how you can meet these needs yourself. Now, long term, that's definitely something like if you have unmet needs in a relationship, after a while, that is going to lead to problems. But if you can extend grace and you can acknowledge and talk about it at least, like I have this need. I know, hun, like just hang out a little bit longer, because then both parties know. And like you're meeting it yourself, your partner's meeting whatever need they have themselves. But sometimes in a relationship, you meet each other's needs. It's just the way it is. And so at least if it's acknowledged and there's some planning, like, okay, when we go away for a weekend, like we're definitely going to handle that and it'll be lovely. I think that can be so healing, and it gives you information, allows you to plan, and it allows you to kind of manage your expectations. And again, verbalizing these things, again, even if the needs can't be met, the wants can't be met, that is important just to kind of get it out. Another thing is, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, the difference between wants and needs. So what is a want and what is a need? So want is, it would be nice to have it. It would enhance what I'm doing here. On a sort of more superficial level, like it tickles me. Do I need it? Could I live without it? Yeah, I could. I think this is an important question to ask. Things are a little bit tighter around my studio and in most people's lives in America, at least. I mean, inflation is insane. Like the cost of groceries is like 3 to 4 times as much as it used to be. So for example, I want to have takeout 2 to 3 days a week. That would be lovely. Like Thai takeout, or I like Asian food. Probably not surprising. It's healthy, has different flavors. There's rice, there's gluten-free options. That is a want that I have. But things are a little bit tighter than usual, especially because we're saving up for a house. So it's not a need, it's a want. It would enhance my life, sure, but is it something that like, oh my gosh, I'm going to perish if I don't have it? No, don't be dramatic. So separating out, like, would it enhance? Yes. Is it going to like, be the end of the world if I don't have it? No. So actually we're trying to do like the once a week thing, at least having that so that we can save. And anytime that we're not spending money on those things, we're like putting in a jar or savings account, which is like a really nice way to have accountability and work together as a team to financially plan. So a need might be, I have a need for romance. I have a need for romance. Now that doesn't necessarily have a price tag on it. Not like a need for a super expensive fancy meal. I mean, I guess maybe somebody might have that need, but if you look at the emotions behind it, it's like more, I have a need for celebration. I have a need for appreciation. I have a need for luxury. Luxury does not have to be expensive. Luxury, a lot of times, is just like time and like feeling like you're being taken care of. So again, differentiating between wants and needs in a relationship and being realistic about what is possible for you. Again, Like if you're on a budget and like I have a need to go on an expensive vacation, that's a need, that's a want. What you need is time together with your partner. What you need is connection. What you need is intimacy. What you need is physical touch. See the difference? I hope so. So being able to separate those really helps you to communicate, helps you to be closer with your partner, and it helps you to be more reasonable. I was definitely, before I started doing this work, I was expecting a lot out of my partners, and because I deliver a lot, and the thing is I wasn't vocalizing these things, I wasn't clear, and when I really got clear with what I want versus what I need, I'm getting most of my needs met almost all the time, and some wants. And it feels really good. It feels really good to have those needs met because I am being so clear about them and because then they are being delivered to me and then some. It's like I said, being able to acknowledge and vocalize and get your needs met is like winning the lottery. I say that all the time and I really mean it. And so I hope and I wish for you that this series that I've done as far as vocalizing these needs and wants and window of tolerance and emotional regulation and dysregulation, recognizing that like they all go together and it's all about healthy relationships with yourself and with others in the workplace, with your friends, with your romantic partner, with your kids, having ways to express and regulate yourself is really a game changer. And so it's where all the work begins, all the foundational work begins with this. So I hope that you've enjoyed this series. I will be doing follow-up videos of pranayama, meditation, as well as asana that is going to pair up really, really well with this series. So look forward to that. And just quick little reminder, if you're looking to go to India next year, but you're a little intimidated, you're like, I don't know where to begin, and you want to go for like the bonding and you want to meet a spiritual community and you want a leader that knows her shit and is able to guide you and also put together a wonderful experience filled with intimacy, communication, spirituality, and the beautiful sacred arts of India, including the martial arts, the dance, the yoga, the breath work, just all these like different temples, experiences. Like you probably want to go to India with me next year. So it's June 3rd to the 16th. If you're interested in that, we have 3 more spots on our waiting list. You can reach out to me, Erin@erincoach.com. And if you're interested in doing any of my programs, my coach school is one of the most transformational experiences you can have. That is October 16th to the 23rd. So if you're interested in that, I have a couple more spaces available. And if you enroll in coach school, or any of my yoga teacher trainings, you get India for half off, 50% off. Huge deal. So if you want to do both, package deal is the way to go, baby. It's the first time and probably, I don't want to say last time, but it's the first time I've been offering this because I want to make things available for people who are committed to this program. And especially something like coach school, I require anyone that comes to India with me to do at least a small module of life coach school, because if I go overseas with someone, I'm spending 2 weeks with you in another country. I want to make sure you can emotionally regulate. I want to make sure that you can communicate. I want to make sure that you're not afraid of intimacy. And because that's how bonds are formed. And that's the core of how I teach, is that sort of trust and that love and that understanding. And when you see that modeled and you're around people like that, I can tell you it will transform you, because I see it all the time. It's transformed me. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me, Erin@erincoach.com. You can check out thriveyogafit.com for the website for details. And I think that's it. Be sure to follow our socials. And if you haven't left a review on this podcast, I was hoping to get to 200 by my birthday. That was a couple months ago. We're at like 170. 30 of you. If you're listening to this, and you've been listening to this for a while, and you have not left a review on iTunes or Spotify, please do it. I just ask you that favor. It's free. It takes a couple of seconds, a couple of clicks of a button, a couple of words. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, and namaste.
Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support the podcast and if it's helping you, please consider writing a review. You can go to iTunes or Google Play, go into the search bar and type in Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching, scroll down, and you can leave a review. This helps other people to find me as well as bumps us up in the search ratings. Also, this podcast is sponsor-free, so that means we don't receive anything for doing it. If you feel so inclined and this podcast is helping to support you and you want to return the favor and help to support any production costs of the podcast, feel free to give a donation to a Venmo link, Thrive Yoga Fit, or PayPal, Erin@erincoach.com. If you don't have the means, don't worry about it. We're not going anywhere. You're all good. But if you would like to give back, you can give back in those ways. Thank you so much. Namaste.